Dear students and viewers, welcome to new English classes by Akenshare. Dear students, today we are going to discuss another CBSE class 9 English poem, that is A Legend of Northland by Phoebe Cary. The poet is Phoebe Cary. Through the poem, the poet has expressed and given some messages that we should not be selfish for giving food to others who are in need. ଏ କବିତା ମାଧ୍ୟମରେ କବି ଗୋଟିଏ କଥା ଜଣେଇଛନ୍ତି କି ଯେ ଆମେ କାହାକୁ ଟିକେ ଆବଶ୍ୟକ ସମୟରେ ଖାଦ୍ୟ ଦେବାକୁ କେବେ ବି କୁଣ୍ଠାବୋଧ ପ୍ରକାଶ କରିବା ନାହିଁ ବା କୃପଣା ଭାବ ପ୍ରଦର୍ଶନ କରିବା ନାହିଁ। Through this poem, the poet has explained like this. Also, the poet says it is a folk tale that we call the poem is just a folk tale that passes from generation to generation. So this poem, the poet has explains that how a greedy woman does not want to give a scanty food to the god saint, and finally the god saint becomes angry and causes the lady to become a woodpecker. It's a folk tale, passes from generation to generation, and especially it is taught to the school children. Let us start. एक स्टोरी माध्यम कविता माध्यम कवि तो से कथा जन चाहूँ जे जड़े स्त्री लोक केमी गड सेंट को खावा देवाक मना कर दौरान और परवर्त समय भगवान बा गड सेंट केमी गोटे उडपिकर बा काठ हणा चढ़ई परिणत कर दौरान। ये गोटे कथा आम शिक्षा पाचे जे आम पिला एटलिस्ट आम एत शिक्षा तो दे पार आम आवश्यक स्थले केबे भी क्या खाद्य टिके दवाई कुंठित बोध अनुभव करने उचित नुहे। ओके, लेट्स स्टडी द पोएम। आम पोएम टी पढ़ा जा। The poem narrates the legend of a lady who annoyed or angered Saint Peter because of her greedy nature, and finally she was turned to a woodpecker by being cursed by the Peter Saint Peter. Let's text the text. केमती से फेंट पीटर खावा मना करता भगवान निजे रागी जाते रागिकी अभिशाप देते से गोटे उडपिकर ही कहीं से फिट नाला आर्थली आटमोस्फियर बचापी जी एत कंजूसगिरी करुच्ची से आर्थल आटमोस्फियर बचा उचित नुहे। फॉर दिस रीजन द लेडी वाज कॉस्ड टू बिकम ए उडपिकर। ओके, आम बर्तमान टेस्ट कभर करवा देखा टेस्ट कौन कवि एक्सप्लेन कर फॉल्क टेल निश्चय भाव में बहुत कहानी कथा मेंशन कर स्पेशली रिगार्डिंग अबाउट द नॉर्थलैंड बेस्ड कहानी टी पोएम टी नॉर्थलैंड पर आधारित कर ओके, ये जो कोल कंट्री बोली कहुला आम बर्तमान से पढ़ा जाऊे। कम टू द टेक्स्ट। अवे अवे इन द नॉर्थलैंड अवे अवे इन द नॉर्थलैंड where the hours of the day are few, where the hours of the day are few and the nights are so long in winter, and the nights are so long in winter they and that they cannot sleep them through. It is the poem based on especially Northland. As we know, Northland is a cold country. Northland रे देखा जाउची कि डे टिके बहुत छोटो बोली कह जा। आवर्स ऑफ द डे इज वेरी स्मॉल बट द नाइट्स इज वेरी लॉन्ग। For this reason the people are unable to, I mean the people cannot sleep. लोक माने एते समय रात्रि सोई पारंती नाही, that we call simply you can understand that as the night is so long the people cannot sleep whole through the night. सारा राति लोक माने एते समय सोई पारंती नाही because the night is very long and the day is very small. The day is very short, I mean the day, hours of the day are very small, whereas the night is very long time. So the people are not being able to sleep the whole through the night. Normally people can sleep 5 to 6 or 7 or 8 hours, but if it is so long, 12 to 13 hours the night, how can we sleep there? So it is impossible for them. So it is सेमान पे असंभव थिला कि सेमान एते समय सोई परिबे नाही, सोई पारु नथिला मध्य। ओके, दे कैन नॉट स्लीप देम थ्रो। सो राति सारा प्राय तो सोई एते समय राति लॉन्ग नाइट सेमाने सोई पारु नथिले। Where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges when it snows, where they harness the swift reindeer. The people of Northland harness the swift reindeer, a type of reindeer that is especially used to draw the sledges. बरफरे चलुवा गाड़ी बरफरे खसे खसी चलता स्लेजेस से गाड़ी को टाणीबा से माने रेंडियर मान को नॉर्मली बोधे वी कैन कॉल देम बलगा हरण बोली कहा जाए मैंने बलगा हरण मान को बोधे सेट करते स्लेज को टाणीबा जो बरफ प्रबल मात्रा पड़ी था जेहेतु कही नॉर्थलैंड इज ए वेरी कोल्ड कंट्री एंड इट इज वेरी हार्ड फॉर द पीपल टू लिव देयर। So to go on here and there, they use the sledges and sledges to be drawn by the special the swift reindeers because they are able to walk on the snow easily. ସେମାନେ ସ୍ନୋରେ ଇତି ସହଜରେ ଚାଲିପାରୁଥିବା ଏକ ପ୍ରକାର ଆନିମଲ୍ ବା ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ କଲ୍ ଦ ରେଣ୍ଡିୟର ବା ବଲଗା ହେଣ ସୋ ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ ସେମାନେ ହାର୍ନେସ୍ କରିଥାନ୍ତି ଯୋଚିଥାନ୍ତି ବା ବାନ୍ଧିଥାନ୍ତି ସ୍ପେଶିଆଲି ତାଙ୍କ ସ୍ଲେଜ୍ ଗାଡ଼ି ସହିତ ଯେମିତି ସେମାନେ ସହଜରେ ବରଫରେ ଯିବା ଆସିବା କରିପାରିବେ. And the children look like bear cubs. And the children of that area, I mean the people of that area, especially the children are looks like the bear cubs. ସେମାନେ ବିୟର କପ୍ ଭଳି ଦେଖାଯାଉଥାନ୍ତି. ହ୍ୱାଟ୍ ଦ ରିଜନ୍ ଦେ ସିମ୍ସ ଲାଇକ୍ ଲୁକ୍ ଲାଇକ୍ ଦ ବିୟର କପ୍ସ. ବିୟର କପ୍ସ ଦେଖାଯାଉଥିଲେ କାରଣ ଯେହେତୁ ସେମାନେ ଶୀତ ବସ୍ତ୍ର ବା ଆମର ୱିଣ୍ଟର ସିଜିନ୍ ଗୋଟେ ଯେଉଁ ୱେରିଂ ଗୁଡ଼ାକ ରହିଛି ଆମର ପଶମ ବସ୍ତ୍ର ବା ରେଶମ ବସ୍ତ୍ର ହେଇପାରେ ସ୍ପେଶାଲି ଆମେ ଯେଉଁ ଓନ୍ କ୍ଲୋଥେସ୍ ସେଗୁଡ଼ାକ ପିନ୍ଧିଥାଉ ସେଗୁଡ଼ାକ ସେମାନେ ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ ଲାଗୁଛନ୍ତି ବୋଧେ ବିୟର କପ୍ ଦେଖାଯାଉଛନ୍ତି. ଛୋଟ ଛୋଟ ପିଲା ଗୁଡ଼ାକ ଯେହେତୁ ଫୁରି ଟାଇପ୍ର ଡ୍ରେସ୍ ପିନ୍ଧିଥାନ୍ତି ପଶମ ବସ୍ତ୍ରଟା ପିନ୍ଧିଥାନ୍ତି ସେଥିପାଇଁ ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ ସେଇଭଳି ଲାଗିଥାଏ ଛୋଟ ଛୋଟ ଭାଲୁ ଛଡ଼ା ଦେଖାଯାଉଥିଲେ. In their funny furry clothes, in their funny, just like this seems like funny and furry clothes. That I call you furry clothes. I mean due to the winter season they use this type of clothes furry ପଶମ ଜାତୀୟ ବସ୍ତ୍ର ଗୁଡ଼ାକ. ତ ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ ସେଇ ଟାଇପ୍ରେ ବ୍ୟବହାର କରାଯାଉଥିଲା. ସେମାନେ ଫନି ଫରି କ୍ଲଥେସ୍ରେ କେମିତି ଦେଖାଯାଉଥିଲେ ଲାଇକ୍ ଦ ବିୟର କପ୍ସ. ଛୋଟ ଛୋଟ ପିଲାମାନେ ଶୀତ ବସ୍ତ୍ର ପିନ୍ଧିକି ସତେ ଯେମିତି କେମିତି ଜଣାପଡ଼ୁଥିଲେ ବିୟର କପ୍ ଭଳି ସବୁ ଦେଖାଯାଉଥିଲେ. They tell them a curious story. I don't believe it is true. They tell them curious story. I don't believe it is true. They, the people of Northland, tell them the children. A curious story. ସେମାନେ ଗୋଟେ curious important ମାନେ ମଜାଦାରିଆ କାହାଣୀ କିଛି କହୁଥିଲେ. But the writer said that I don't believe it. I don't believe that story is true. Maybe the poet. I don't believe it is true. And yet you may learn a lesson. Of course. Though the poet does not believe the story about it, whether it is true or false, but he does not believe it is true. But he says that it learns a lesson. এটা কোনো লেসন ହିଁ শিখাইଥାଏ কিন্তু. If I tell the tale to you, if I tell the tale, I mean you means with the reader. You means here I tell the tale you. You means you are the reader here. I the poet again. If I mean the poet wants to say that if he tells the story to us, we learn something about it. ଯଦି କବି ଆମକୁ ଏଇ କାହାଣୀଟି କୁହନ୍ତି ତାହେଲେ ଆମେ କିଛି ଶିଖିପାରିବା. So this point the poet wants to say this line. Once when the God sent Peter lived in the world below. Once when the God sent Peter, maybe the preacher, God sent, lived in the world below. When he was living in the world below and walked about in preaching just as he did now. Preaching for the religion. Just as he did, normally God Peter sent, preaching the religion about, teaching the people the morality of religion regarding this. While he was living below the wall, I mean just like with the human beings. As he was preaching the religion about the morality of the religion, he was living among the people. সেই ସମୟ କଥା କୁହାଯିବ ଯେତେବେଳେ କି ନିଜେ ସେଣ୍ଟ ପିଟର ମଧ୍ୟ ତଳେ ବସବାସ କରୁଥିଲେ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କ ସହିତ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କୁ ପ୍ରଚାର କରୁଥିଲେ ଧର୍ମ ବିଷୟରେ ପ୍ରଚାର କରୁଥିଲେ সেই ସମୟର କଥା. He came to the door of a cottage in traveling round the earth. God Peter came to the door of a cottage. I mean Peter God came to the door of a cottage in traveling around the earth. While he was traveling around the earth, he came to the cottage door. ଯେତେବେଳେ ସିଏ ବୁଲୁଥିଲେ ସବୁ ପ୍ରଚାର କରିବା ପାଇଁ ପ୍ରିଚିଂ କରିବା ସମୟରେ ବୁଲାବୁଲି କରୁଥିଲେ ସେ ସମୟରେ ସିଏ ଗୋଟେ କଟେଜ ଡୋର ପାଖକୁ ଆସିଛନ୍ତି. Where a little woman was making cakes and he saw that a little woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. And also baking them on the hearth. Hearth ମାନେ ଚୁଲା ବୋଲି କହିପାରେ. Where the cake is made, baking them on the hearth. Hearth ମାନେ ଚୁଲା ନା ବୋଲି ଓଡ଼ିଆରେ କହିପାରିବା. God Peter said that when he come to the door to the of a cottage, he saw that a woman was making breads or cakes on the hearth. ସେତେବେଳେ ଦେଖିବାକୁ ପାଇଥିଲେ. And being faint with fasting for the day was almost done. And being fast with fainting. And being faint he was as if senseless stage due to fasting, as he was perhaps suffering from food without food. So he was just like feeling like faint. ସେ ବୋଧେ ଖାଇବା ଅଭାବ ପାଇଁ ବା ଖାଇବା ଦୁଃଖ ପାଇଁ ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ୍ ଫେସ୍ କରୁଥିଲେ ଡ୍ୟୁ ଟୁ ଫାଷ୍ଟିଂ ବୋଧେ ଅନେକ ସମୟ ହେଲା ଖାଇ ନଥିଲେ. ସୋ ତାଙ୍କ ପୁରା ଟାୟାର୍ଡ ଲାଗୁଥିଲା. ସେ ଫେଣ୍ଟ ଲାଇକ୍ ଫିଲିଂ କରୁଥିଲେ. He asked her from her store of cakes to give him a single one. God said, her means the little woman, from her store of cakes to give him a single one. The God requested the little woman, please give him a little cake to eat. से देखिले कि से स्त्री लोक किसी रिक्वेस्ट कर खाद्य दवाई देखा तो रिएक्शन ऑफ द वोमेन कौन होची जेहेतु गॉड पीटर निजे मागुंट खावाई से भोकातुर थे पूरा फेंट लाइक फिलिंग करुले तो से बहुत भोक था जना पड़ा फास्टिंग अवस्था जेहेतु बहुत भोक लगुला और खाया चाहूले किटा से रिक्वेस्ट करते से लिटिल वोमेन को कि खावा दवाई देखा से वोमेन रिएक्शन कौन थी So she made a very little cake, but as it is baking late, so she made a very little cake. I mean, the little woman. As if she did not want to give a little food to the God saint. She just made a little cake, but it is when it is baked late, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. When he was baking the little cake, and she felt like that it was really very big one to part to give. ନିଜେ ଫିଲ୍ କରୁଥିଲା ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେ ବେକ୍ କରୁଥିଲା ଛୋଟ ଛୋଟ କେକ୍ଟା ସେ ତିଆରି କରି ବେକ୍ କରୁଥିଲା ତାକୁ ନିଜେ ଅନୁଭବ ଆସିଗଲା ଏଇଟା ବହୁତ ବଡ଼ ବୋଧେ ଲାଗୁଛି ହି ଥଟ୍ ଇଟ୍ ସିମ୍ ଟୁ ଲାର୍ଜ ବହୁତ ବଡ଼ ଲାଗୁଥିଲା ଯେମିତି ଟୁ ଗିଭ୍ କାହାକୁ ଦେବା ପାଇଁ ତାକୁ ବହୁତ ବଡ଼ ଲାଗୁଥିଲା ସୋ ସେ ତାକୁ ଦେଲା ନାହିଁ therefore she needed another therefore she needed another ସେ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ମଧ୍ୟ ତିଆରି କରିବାକୁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କଲା and still a smaller one now this was also smaller than the previous one এইটা কিন্তু যে আউথরে তৈরি করা চাচ্ছেন নিডর করিয়া আউথরে প্রিপেয়ার কলা যেতବେଳେ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ତିଆରି କରିଥିଲେ সেটা ପୂର୍ବ ଅପେକ୍ଷା ଟିକେ ଛୋଟ ବି ଥିଲା but it looked when she turned it over it looked when it turned it over as large as the first had done when it turned it over I mean when the lady was turning the second part I mean the opposite part she felt that it is also as big as the first one तो या लगिला प्रथमटी जेमिति बड़ थिला द्वितीयटी मध्य तांको सेमिति बड़ लागुची जोठी पाई सेटा से दबा राजी पड़ला नहीं देन से टू के टिनी स्क्रैप ऑफ डॉप तापर आउट से शेयर कले टिनी स्क्रैप ऑफ बहुत छोट डॉप माने जो आटा बा मैदा चकडी रखितला सेठी केक तयार करथला डॉप कहि परिबा बहुत छोट स्क्रैप ऑफ माने बहुत छोट टिके नेला वर्तमान and roll it flat आता से रोलिंग कर चलला जिमिता में रुटी बेलुचे एक्जाक्टली छोट पतला करके सेमि से रोलिंग कर चला फ्लैट पूरा फ्लैट बा थिन कर देला एंड बेक्ड इट थिन आज वाफर तो से बेक्ड इट तबले शेप करूथला बा कुक करूथला कहि परिबा हमें बेक करूथला थिन आज वाफर बहुत पतला थला वाफर भली पतला थला बट शी कुड नॉट पार्ट विथ दैट एटा मध्य से देई पारिला नाही ताको एटा मध्य एते बड़ लागिला ताको एते पतला हेइथिले भी ताको एते बड़ लागुथला ताको से ताको देई पारिला नाही आई मीन द वुमेन आल्सो डिड नॉट गिव दिस लिटिल वाफर लाइक थिन पार्ट ऑफ दिस केक टू द गॉड पीटर सी जे भोका तोरे थिले भोकरे छटपटले खाइया पई लेडी जन ताको छेतिके मध्य देला नाही खाइबा पई एइटे पतला अंशटिके मत देबा बसी कुंठित अनुभव करथला ताको मध्य देला नाही For she said, my cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself are yet too large to give away. So she put them on the shelf. Because she said, my cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself. When I eat the cakes, it seems like very small, but are yet too large to give up. But when she wants to give it, it seems like very big. So she put them on the shelf. She did not give anything to the God Peter, but rather kept in the shelf. से निजे अनुभव करुला कि जिते से निजे खाया चाहूता तो छोट लगुला बट दबा को चेष्टा करुला दबा मुंडे रोला बहुत बड़ लगुला जो से नदे man देला नहीं बरं सेल्फ रखीदेला then God sent Peter grew angry for he was hungry and faint then the God sent Peter grew angry so रागी गले God Peter बहुत रागी गले because he was very hungry and faint and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint sure such a woman ଏଇଭଳି ଜଣେ ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଲୋକ ଯିଏ କି enough to provoke a saint ଜଣେ saint को ରଗେଇବା ଗାଳି କରିବା ବା ଏଇଭଳି ଖରାପ ବ୍ୟବହାର କରିବା ହିଁ ଯୋଗ୍ୟ ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଲୋକ ସେ ନଥିଲା କିନ୍ତୁ ସେ କରିଲା ଏଇଭଳି ଯିଏ କରିପାରିବା କଥା ନୁହେଁ ଏଇଭଳି ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଲୋକମାନେ ଏମିତି କରିପାରନ୍ତି ବୋଲି ସେ ବୁଝି ସାରିଥିଲେ such like women can ଅନ୍ୟମାନେ ଏମିତି କେବେ କରିପାରିବେ ନାହିଁ ବଟ୍ ଏଇଭଳି ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଲୋକମାନେ ହିଁ ଗଡ୍ ସେଣ୍ଟ ପିଟରଙ୍କୁ ଏମିତି ପ୍ରୋଭୋକ୍ କରିପାରିବେ ଗାଳି କରିପାରିବେ ବା ଚିଟ୍ କରିପାରିବେ ବା ଏଇଭଳି ଖରାପ ବ୍ୟବହାର କରିପାରିବେ এইভাবে জনে স্ত্রী লোক হি সেন্ট পিটরଙ୍କୁ ଲଗେଇ ଦେଇଥିଲେ ପ୍ରଭୋଗ କରିଥିଲେ ଗେଟ୍ ଆଙ୍ଗର ରାଗ ଲଗେଇ ଦେଇଥିଲେ ଅଲରେଡ଼ି ସେଣ୍ଟ ପିଟର ମୋତେ ରାଗି ସାରିଥିଲେ କଥାକୁ ନେଇକରି and he said you are far too selfish to dwell in the human form now Saint Peter calls the lady you are far too selfish to dwell इन ह्यूमान फॉर्म तुम्हें एभली जन स्त्री लोक जी कि ह्यूमान फॉर्म रे बसवास करने योग्य नुहे डुएल रहा बसवास कर इन ह्यूमान फॉर्म मनुष्य शरीर में तुम्हें बसवास कला भली जन मनुष्य नुहे टू हाव बोथ फूड एंड शेल्टर तुम जो टाइप व्यवहार कर तुम्हें ना खाद्य पाइबा योग्य ना घर पाइबा योग्य एंड फायर टू कीप योर वार्म एपरिक फायर अर्थात तो तुम्हें एभली जन स्त्री लोक जी कि मनुष्य हबारे बंचापी योग्य नुह ना जहाँ तुम्हें खाद्य ठीक पाइपर ना घर रही पार ना तुम फायर मिल तुम एभली जन स्त्री लोक तुमको यू जिन ठीक नहीं मिल ना तुम ह्यूमान फॉर्म रे रहा भली जन स्त्री लोक नुहे यू आर नॉट सच ए ह्यूमन दैट हु नीड्स एंड हु कैन गेट फूड शेल्टर एंड फायर so you are not eligible for getting that तुम ये जन स्त्री लोक नुह जे कि जिन पाई पार तो ये जिन तुमको दि जा उचित नुहे तुम पाइबा योग्य नुह तथा तुम मनुष्य फॉर्म रे रही पार ना यहाँ राग थिला आउ अभिशाप थिला सेंट पीटरଙ୍କର now you shall build as the birds do now you will build yourself live as the birds do birds live outside the house or homes and shall get your scanty food and shall get you will live like a bird and try to search and try to find out your scanty the small food to search your small food there. All through the life, you have to search your food, scanty food, by boring and boring and boring. Boring, making holes and making holes. All day in the hard, dry wood. Whole day you will have to bore the hard, dry wood to get and to find your scanty food. भावना सेंट को अभिशाप देदेले दिन सारा तुम से हार काठ काठ को काटिकी तुम्हें तुम अल्प टिके खाद्य को खोजा चेष्टा कर ना तुम रही घर पाइब ना तुम पाखे फायर थी ना आवश्यक फूड थी तुम से योग्य न तुम अभिशाप दिगला दिन सारा तुम काठ को हाणी 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 अल्प किसी खाद्य संग्रह कर जहाँ तुम सफिसीयंट हम तुम अन्न किसी अधिक जिन पाइपर ना दिन सारा तुम बोरिंग बोरिंग मेकिंग होल्स नहीं दिन सारा तुम होल करी शेष यू विल जस्ट गेट समथिंग अबाउट फूड दैट यू कैन लिव देयर Then up she went through the chimney. The lady, being caused by the Saint Peter, went through the chimney, never speaking a word. She did not speak a single word because she is already caused by the God. Now she went through the chimney, and out of the top flew a woodpecker. And it was seen that from the chimney a woodpecker just flew away because she was chained to a bird. Now the lady has been turned. The greedy woman now has been turned to a a woodpecker, being caused by the Saint Peter. As she did not give to food and make the saint angry, and it was the result of her misdeeds. She had a scarlet cap on her head. It was seen that when the lady went away, flew away, being turning to a woodpecker, she had a scarlet cap on her head. That is scarlet cap, red color cap. Scarlet cap, a red color cap. Bright red bala. Scarlet cap on her head. Generally we see that woodpecker had a scarlet cap. And that was left the same. It became the same. Because as the lady was doing cakes, she was wearing a red cap. So it left there. The lady now being turned to a woodpecker also had a cap that is bright red. So perhaps the same thing she said felt the same. से जहाँ जो टोपी रेड टोपीटे पिंधिकी से केक कैरी करुले उड़ीगला पर भी काठ हणा चढ़ी ट्रांसफर है भी मुंडे से लाल कलर टोपीटे चिमथेकी रहीगला बट ऑल द रेस्ट ऑफ हर क्लॉथेस वेयर बर्न सबकि पोशाक ऑल द रेस्ट ऑफ हर क्लॉथेस वेयर बर्न सबकि पोड़ी जाइथिला नष्ट हो गला ब्लैक एज कोल इन द फ्लेम जेहेतु फ्लेम थिला चिमनी रे फ्लेम थिला निया रही थिला सो से सब किछि पोड़ी पाउंस हो गला कला हो गला ब्लैक इट इज सीन दैट woodpecker is black in color but her cap is very bright red देखिचे woodpecker मानकर बड़ी सारा संपूर्ण ब्लैक थाए एवं मुंडर चुट्टी बाजू कैप थाए रेड ब्राइट रेड कलर थाए and every country school boy has seen her in the wood. Every country school boy has seen that. It is believed that every country school boy has seen her in the wood. Sometimes jungle देखी चंती the lady being turned to woodpecker. some देखी चंती जानी से लोग भावंती where she lives in the streets till this very day. It is believed that the lady is still living there. Very day, pouring and boring food. I mean, making holes on the dry hardwoods and searching for woods. The lady, being called to a woodpecker, is still living there. It is believed that in Northland, the people tell the such story to their young children, and it is as a folk tale, folk passed from generation to generation. Dear students, the poem is just over. I just want to tell you that those who have not yet subscribed my channel, please subscribe my channel as soon as possible, and also forget not to click the bell icon that I can you can find out everything that I post here. Thank you, dear students. Before ending this poem, just I tell you something about the poetic devices in the poem. Dear students, आम कि पोएटिक डिवाइस डिस्कसन करवा अल्प कि पोएटिक डिवाइस अच्छी पोएम टे तो डिस्कसन करदा जहाँकि तुम हूँ जाना सहज हो कौन कौन सी पोएटिक डिवाइस रही जमीक आमर रिपिटेशन रही आमर वर्ड्स ऑफ फ्रेजेस रिपिटेशन करे जमीक बोरिंग एंड बोरिंग वर्डटा यूज करे आम जानीपारे लाइन टे अच्छी बोरिंग एंड बोरिंग एक्चुअली रिपिटेशन लाइन गुड़ाक अच्छी देख बोरिंग एंड बोरिंग अच्छी होल डे कहुई यहाँ बोरिंग एंड बोरिंग भी रिपिटेशन हो पार गोटे बोरिंग एंड बोरिंग ये वर्ड यूज कर तापर आहरी रिपिटेशन भी अच्छी देखा आम जापर ये भी देख रिपिटेशन कथा रही बोरिंग बोरिंग एंड बोरिंग हूँ रिपिटेशन बोले आम कहीपर स्टांजा 4 रही है आमर आउरी किसी कन्सोनान्स अच्छी स्विफ्ट फ्रेजेस जो कहुई कि कन्सोनान्ट कथा कहुई जहाँ आम कहीपर कौन कन्सोनान्स आम कन्सोनान्ट शब्द यूज कर पोएटिक डिवाइस यूज कर जो से यूज कर कन्सोनान्ट शब्द व्यवहार कर कवि पोएटिक डिवाइस विश्वास कर जो रही देख कन्सोनान्ट शब्द आमर हो पार स्विफ्ट अच्छी स्लेजेस अच्छी स्नोज अच्छी यहाँ भी हो पार गोटे प्रकार कन्सोनान्स बोले कवि कहीपर आम आसोनान्स अच्छी रिपिटेशन ऑफ आवे आवे जो रही आमर भावेल साउंड गुड़ा रही फास्ट जो रही जो फास्ट जो रही पोएम रिमाइंड कर पोएम जो फास्ट रही लाइन गुड़ाक आमर जो रही फास्ट लाइन रिमाइंड करदे ये जो रही आवे एंड आवे गुड़ाक हूँ गोटे पोएटिक डिवाइस दैट्स नोन एज रिपिटेशन ऑफ भावेल साउंड दैट इज आसोनान्स. Dear students, poem टी ऑलरेडी ओवर. Thank you, dear students.